Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we have a special episode because we have one of the most returning guests to the podcast. I don't know if he's number one, but he's up there with people like James Wedmore, and that's probably it. They're probably the two most returning people to the podcast. That's because they're some of my really good friends, but also because they're also two of my really good mentors. And so today we have Mr. Mel Abraham coming back to the podcast, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, money, and how to make more of it and get your money working for you. So Mel, welcome back to the podcast.
Brandon, it is so good to be back here again, man. You got to let me know how many times James has been on. We will. We'll
make sure that happens. Like, even if you and I just come on here to talk about nothing and just give you those returning guest points, we'll do it. Well, I'm excited to talk to you, and because there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. And I think, even for us, that we were talking before the podcast, I've noticed like sales are kind of all over the place, and how people are making buy decisions seems to have shifted and changed a lot over this last, I think it's just in 2025. And then obviously for me, like going through a divorce and like seeing a lot of my net worth sort of like split in more than in half, and a lot of things like that. What I've recognized is that having you and your teachings and your guidance through the divorce, and also how to structure my money leading into the divorce, like even when I was married, like a lot of the money decisions I made led for both Jacqueline and I to be in financially good spots as we headed into this, and both of us wouldn't be where we were financially, even going through a divorce, if it wasn't for you. And so the thing I love about you is you're very smart with how you do it. You're very fair with how you do it. But more importantly, money always comes down to what's important to the person that you're coaching. And I think a lot of people don't take that approach. So I'm really excited to have you here on the podcast. And we were chatting beforehand about some why people get stuck. What are some myths and beliefs that people have with money that keep them just financially stuck, never moving ahead? Always, maybe it's living paycheck to paycheck or always having debt. But what are some of the things that you've seen lately that have been keeping people stuck with where they are financially, that if they just got rid of may make some difference in their life?
So I think that there's a couple things, but I think the thing when I think about today, like what's going on today, is I think uncertainty is creating fear. Fear is creating stagnation. They're afraid to make a decision because what happens if it's the wrong decision? So the fact is that not making a decision is a decision. And in all likelihood, it may end up being the wrong decision, because if the decision is to park your money on the sidelines, or to park your value, even more importantly, what you can take to the world, what you can bring to the world and solve problems, and park that on the sidelines until things maybe are a little more certain or something like that. That's a mistake, I think. And I say it directly with tough love, but with love at the same time, because here's what, if you truly want to excel, no matter whether it's a certain environment or uncertain environment, I don't know that we ever have certainty. It's just that the uncertainty is in different places. Sometimes it's louder. Sometimes it's not so loud. There's always risk. But the one certainty I think I can give you is if you focus on your value and how you become invaluable and indispensable to your market, to your client, to your employer, then no matter what goes on in the economy, you come out better because you've positioned yourself differently, and you've owned your value, and you're willing to bring it to the marketplace. It's not directly related to building wealth. But in today's world, what I see is people not willing to step into all they could be, which means that they're leaving value on the table, which means that they're not making the income that they could have, and they don't have the security that they could secure to build the future they deserve. And I think that's a development, because I'm doing weekly live shows and I get these questions and I see it. Man, step into who you are. And really, that's probably the biggest thing, is to make that choice to say, I'm willing to step into who I am, because no matter what goes on in the world, if you have conviction about your value, your values, who you are, the problems you solve, how you can solve them, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. They can't take that away from you.
No, it really doesn't. And I think you hit the nail on the head with when you said problems that you solve, because it doesn't matter what's going on in the economy. There's always going to be problems. Like, people are still spending money. Like, in recessions, people are still spending money. They're just being maybe a little bit more selective with what they spend money on. But if you can position your value as the solution to the biggest, most painful problem, people will still always pay for that. And I love what you said too, is like the indecision, or inability to make a decision still is a decision. It's a decision not to move forward with something. And it reminds me of this video that I saw where someone was asking someone a question, and they said something along the lines of like, I just don't have confidence. There's a big problem. I don't have confidence. And the person responds with, you sound pretty confident in that belief. And it was just kind of like you do have confidence. You just don't have confidence in certain areas, but you are a confident person. It's the same thing with what you're saying is and I see it on sales calls too. People just cannot make a decision, or they're in a lot of fear and worry. And what I think I hear you saying is the first step we need, or maybe the first two steps we need to like pulling ourselves out of our financial situation, is to be more decisive on what's going to actually help us move the needle. And also understanding that when we want to produce more income, it really comes down to understanding our value and positioning that as a way to solve problems. And people, no matter what's going on in the world, people will still pay for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's truly the case. And I think that there's two elements, that the confidence part. One is, I tell this story in my book, Building Your Money Machine, that says that when I was growing up, we had two bathrooms in a hallway. And my brother's room, I had an identical twin brother, and he's in one end of the hall, I'm at the other end of the hall. And there was a frosted glass window in the bathroom. And at night, the moon would shine through. It would make this ghost-like image on the floor. And my brother and I, at 5 years old, 6 years old, we thought it was a ghost. So at night, if we wanted to get to each other's rooms, we would sprint down the hall, scared of the ghost. And like my dad one day just says, what are you doing? I said, the ghost is going to get us, Dad. You did. He said, what ghost? And I said, the ghost in the bathroom. And like he says, and he looks, he says, oh, and he walks into the bathroom and he flips the light on, and the ghost was gone. And it just, this is what's happening in our, especially when it comes to money and wealth, is that we don't know what we don't know. And we see the ghost, and we just need someone and something that's going to flip the light on, take the ghost away, and walk you through it. Because confidence never comes from contemplation. Confidence comes from action. And so we have to take the first step. And if we have a guide on the path, whether it's you, me, someone else, that's going to flip the light on and help you make that first step, you will build confidence. The first time you and I went out and did something that we've never done before, okay? Me trying to surf in Fiji with y'all. Okay. Ain't no confidence there.
Just courage, no confidence.
But, yeah, you had to and I think that's it. You have to have the courage to step in and say, I'm going to give it a shot. And be okay with it. Look, I talk about money. I talk about wealth. Does it mean that I hit everything right? Hell no. I mean, I wiped out 1/3 of everything I owned in a Ponzi scheme. Come on. But I think you're right that they just, what's that first step? Don't take the big step, but what's the first step you need to take on your path to doing something different with your life, building your own practice, working in your world, or building wealth? That's the first step to confidence, is actually taking a step.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to get into the steps of like how we start to do that with you, because I know you have this whole system that you call, the wealth machine? Money machine,
the Money Machine Blueprint.
But I know I want to go through and see if there's any more sort of like myths or beliefs, because I sort of have this understanding that like if we have our foot on the brake and we're still hitting the go button or the go pedal, we're not going to go anywhere. So we have to remove our foot off the brake first. So like, I think the first myth is that like if I'm understanding correctly, is this idea that even though there might be uncertainty and stuff going on in the world, the safest thing sometimes isn't just like sitting there, not making a decision and not spending money or not taking a risk. What are some other sort of beliefs and myths that you see people falling into that are stopping them from generating revenue, wealth, all of that stuff?
And I think you hit the nail on the head there with exactly that. And the challenge with wealth is the delay costs you a ton. Watch this. At 20 years old, if you put money into an S&P 500 fund based on historical averages, at 20 years old, every dollar you put in at 20 will turn into $88 by the time you're 65. 88 times. Delay that 5 years and you wait till 25. It cuts it in half. It's 44 times. Delay it 10 years. Wait till 30. It's now to 23 times. So the delay itself can cost you.
Shit, I'm 41, Mel.
And especially when we talk about money.
41, dude. My got cut down by like decades. 7.
We still have decades. And the beautiful thing is you have the ability, especially in our space, we have the ability to control both sides of the equation, the expense side and the income side. So we can leverage that income and do it right. I think that the thing that keeps people from making that decision this is the other myth, is that money stuff is complicated. And the finance industry would love for that to be the case, because then we're dependent on them. But I can tell you that at one point that was the truth. We had to depend on them because they gave us access to investments in the market and everything. It's not that way anymore. Within an app, within our phone, we have access to things and they are not complicated. We didn't have index funds and ETFs back then. We do today. We can create a simple portfolio that invests and grows with you, that can build wealth, that isn't complicated, that doesn't have a ton of friction, and that will work for you. The funny thing is, a lot of people think that, you probably have this really complex financial structure. I don't. I do exactly what I teach: index funds, ETFs, and a portfolio that's built on that, whether I was in 6 figures, 7 figures, or now 8 figures. Okay. It's the same because it works. Why, if it's working, why throw it out and say, well, now I'm going to reinvent it all? And so I think that when you look at money stuff, is that if all we master is this: 1, our income; 2, our savings rate. Now, a lot of people say it's just income that matters. I just got to earn more, earn more, earn more. And that's the indoctrination of society, is just earn more, you'll be okay. Earning more will never give you freedom. Okay. Only a money machine will do that. And that freedom isn't going to come at the next raise or the next paycheck. It begins the day you get your money to work harder for you than you did for it. That's the key. And so we think about income, then we look at savings and investing rate, and then we look at the returns, meaning what investments that we take on, and then we look at time. Those are the only 4 things you got to master. Well, most people think income is the driver. It's not. The biggest driver in it is your savings and investing rate. how much of that income do you put away for you? And we've heard the term that says, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. That's wrong. It's not true. It's not how much you make. It's not how much you keep. It's how much you get to work for you. That's the key. Then the answer to time is always now. When's a good time to invest? Today. In yourself, in your investments, in your future? Today. Because I just showed you that delaying can cost you tremendously. And so time is off the table. Then the last thing is, how do you invest? The returns. So out of the four things, investing rate and investments, you're done. You're good. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
And that's the thing too, that I think trips people up is they think it's very complicated. And then, but also it's also sometimes not the most sexy thing in the world, right? It's not like, hey, I'm going to show you how to do $1 million launch, that like pumps people up. It's like, I'm going to show you how to have these behaviors that stacked up over time will set you free. And I know there's like more to it than that, but I think that's what people need to get into the mindset of is it's really about just building the behavior or the muscle that allows things to compound. And then that's what sets you. And it doesn't matter if it's like $1 a day or whatever it is. It's any extra cash stacked up over time, done in the right way, starts to build and work for you. And so I know you kind of went through some, because I know the machine and I know the steps. I know you kind of went through them right now a little bit, but like, what would the first step be into starting to piece a lot of this together?
So the first step, which might sound odd for folks, is to get a vivid vision for your life. Okay? Because here's the deal. Here's how I see money. You'll hear people say money is a tool. I say it's a paintbrush. It's a paintbrush to paint the masterpiece called your life. See, too many people think that the money is the painting. It's the brush. And so what really needs to happen is, what kind of life do we want? Do we want a life where I'm in a tent in Montana or a yacht in Monaco? Do I want something in between? What does that look like health-wise, wealth-wise, relationships, family, spiritual? And define the target, because otherwise we run the risk of running someone else's race. And this is where Bronnie Ware wrote the book, The 7 Regrets of Dying. And one of the biggest regrets, on their last day, she was a hospice nurse. So in their last days of life, they're realizing that they didn't live their own life. And so if we're going to go through the work to build the wealth, to have that free life, then it should be the freedom to live the life we want. And so the first thing is to really define what that is, because until we do, we can't put a price tag on it and we don't know the target.
And is that to say, like, let's say I do want to have this vision of living on a yacht in Monaco, like that. And then you work with someone else and they're like, I just want like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,000 square foot house, but something modest, and I just don't have to work for the rest of my life. Like, those are two completely different visions. Because there's two completely different visions, does that mean that will alter like how we produce our income, what our saving strategy looks like, what the investment strategy looks like? Is that what it comes down to?
It changes the target. It changes the pathway a little bit, but the process is exactly the same. The same process that my son followed to be where he's at 35 is the same process that I'm continuing to follow at 63. The difference is that I'm either in the process longer or more focused. So I might extend my remember I said savings investing rate. So in my process, the target investing rate is 20 to 25% of your income. But I might sit back and say, for these years, I'm going to try to push to 40%. Or I might be in a different place where I can go down to 10%. And so we adjust it, but the process is exactly the same.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So vivid vision. And this is one of the things I actually like really admire about you and your philosophy, is that the way that you teach it is based on the life that someone actually wants to have. And I'll never forget when we bought our first house, and it was like a big risk for me because I had nothing when I got started. Like we were living in Jacqueline's parents' extra bedroom. We were broke, like nothing. And then I finally had about $200,000 saved up from like the business, and it's taken off and all of this stuff. And then, Jacqueline really wanted to buy this house, and I was fine after years of just stressing over money and the bills being paid. I'm like, I finally have a safety net. I feel so like I don't have to stress over money. And she wanted to invest, or the down payment would have been like 75% of what we had. And then I remember asking you about it, and you're like, well, what is it that you want? And the other thing too is I was trying to avoid PMI. So I wanted to try to put 20% down. And what you helped me get to was like, Brandon, it seems like things like the memories of a home and your family and this sort of thing are like really important to you. What do you think having your own home and a bigger house and a nicer house and like coming up for the holiday, like what would that do for you? And that was how I made the decision. And then when we got down to it, I ended up feeling comfortable putting $100,000 down. So we still had $100,000 in savings. We had $100,000 down, but it meant I had PMI, like a PMI payment, which was $100 a month. And it was like, I was going to put all this risk on me for $100 a month. And then not to get into the weeds of money, like the amounts and stuff, but like we made a ton of money off that house too when we sold it. And I was like, oh my God, I would have missed out on all of this money over $100 a month that I ended up like only having to do for a year or so, because we ended up putting like more money into the home. And you helped me get to that point, but it was all based off of like me and my values and what was important to me. Because there were a lot of financial advisors, and I'm not saying you're a financial advisor, but like people that advise on money that say like, never have PMI. Like that's just an absolute no. And it was like, but the quality of my life would have been sacrificed because of that decision. And so these beautiful memories, and now being divorced and all this stuff, like I look back and I was like, that was a very good part of my life. Like those are memories that I will have for the rest of my life. And so I love that part of it. What's the next step after that? Like once you have that sort of vision and that vivid vision and you start piecing that together, what do we do next?
So the next piece, which is where you might need to grab a drink, is where we now have to look at where are we? Like look at our reality. Like now, what's our income? What's our spending? Getting critical about it, understanding what we have in assets and liabilities, what we have to work with. Because what we've done is we put a pin in on the map for where we want to go. Now we're going to put a pin in the map of where we currently are and what we have to work with. Now we know from that, we know the gap. And now it's a matter of filling that gap. That's the game, is once we understand the gap. The key in knowing what you know, there's two elements of it, is understanding your income, what your sources of income are, and understanding your spending. I break down spending. When I have people journal their money, their spending, I want them to journal their money habits. Now, here's the way I look at it, though. I'm not here to tell someone not to spend. I'm here to raise their awareness, their consciousness, and their intention. So if you're fully aware, fully conscious, and you spend it, I'm good with it. Okay. So I have a kid that he cuts my hair. He's 23 years old. It doesn't take long. It takes him longer to find the hair to cut, and he tells me one day, he says, one of my good friends, he just bought a $5,000 watch. And I said, interesting. I said, does he make a lot of money? He says, no, he's 22 years old. I said, okay, why would he buy a $5,000 watch? And he said, because his buddies thought it was cool. I said, let me do the math for you. He said, he bought a $5,000 watch to impress a couple of dudes that might or might not be in his life in the next 5 years. I see it as $5,000. Now, if he enjoys it and he wants it and he's got a fetish for it, whatever, great. But if he understood that $5,000, we already said at 20 years old, goes up 88 times, call it 80 times. that $5,000 could turn into $400,000 by the time he retires? Would he have made the same decision? And if that 5,000 was financed on a credit card, it's even worse. And I said, so the idea isn't to say no to what you want to spend on. It's to be aware what you're giving up so you can make the choices that, like you said, are in alignment with what really matters to you and your values. And so now we discern and we break down our expenses that way.
Yeah. I mean, I love that because I feel like a lot of people make buying decisions off of just impulse or emotion. And because they don't have the vivid vision or mapped out, they can't have the comparison of what is more important. Like, even if it's like $100 little thing, it's like, well, do I really want this $100 thing now? Or do I want it to be $8,000 when I turn 65 and can now like retire and vacation? Like, do I want this? What, I don't know what it is. I'm just going to call it like video game or whatever now, or do I want like a really nice vacation at 65? And it makes it, and I love the word conscious. It removes these subconscious automated impulse decisions and brings the awareness to a point where you're like, okay, I'm making a conscious decision to choose between this and this. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. I love that.
It's important to realize when our emotions are involved in our money decisions, typically they're bad. How did I get in the Ponzi scheme? My emotions got involved. So what I do with people, when I said, I want you to spend at least 30 days, I prefer 90 days to just track every dollar spent, what it was for, how much, and here's the kicker. What was the emotion or the feelings you had when you did it? Because what I'm looking for is a trail of spending triggers. And all of a sudden we start to see that retail therapy potentially is real.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden when you have that awareness, you can say, oh, it's happening again. I'm going to step away.
And I think sometimes it's not even just like your spending habits on yourself. Like, I notice my spending habits get bigger when I'm with my kids because of the emotion. It's like my kid, like last night we went to Lucky Strike out here in Moore Park, and it was like, we just went bowling and played some video games and got some food. And I like added it all up and it was like $200. I'm like, what the hell? Like, we just went bowling, like just bowling with my kids was like $97. And I was like, geez, like we're going to go to the cheaper one. Like $97 is ridiculous. Lucky Strike, Jesus. But the point is we also went to the fair last week, and that was like another $200. And I'm like, how, like, I just, when it's with my kids, I'm like, it's just like, let's go have fun and do this. But then I'm at the point with myself, I'm like, I can be aware and have the impulse. I'm like, I don't really need that. It's fine. Like whatever. So with my kids, I realized that these spending habits like sort of become, like I lose that sense of awareness a little bit. And so, but that only happens by doing what you're talking about, is like taking a check on every single dollar in, where's it going? What, like, even I would assume even looking at the emotion you're going through during that specific purchase, like all of that stuff is really, really important. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Kids are expensive, man. They're so expensive.
Oh, they are.
My God.
Now I got grandkids.
Oh, you're even more trouble now. The grandkids. You got a couple.
We're going to watch them for a week here in a little while up there. So Lord knows how much that's going to cost.
You're going to be, I mean, if you need to take a loan, like borrow money, just let me know. It's fine. I can imagine, because I can see how I'm with my kids, and then I watch like my parents with my kids, and then Jacqueline's parents with the kids. And it's like, they are just, I feel like being a grandparent is just a whole nother level.
Oh my God. It's a whole nother level. And so, I mean, being a single dad of a boy, I did have the ability to say no to him, but two little girls, like, I'm like, I'm toast. I'm done.
I have two girls and I have a boy, and it's like, it's hard. So I can't imagine. I need to get my money back in order, like after the divorce and all this stuff, just to prepare for grandkids. Like I know that's coming.
There you go.
Okay. So we have vivid vision, be critical about where you are. Let's go through like one or two more steps. And then I know we have something that we can go deeper with this with people. We'll talk about at the end, but, what's the next step after that?
So here's the next step. Now we need to take what we have and have a recipe to give every dollar a job description. Most people have money come into their lives, but they don't know what they're going to do with it. Here's the analogy I use: that you decide you're going to hire 20 employees. You bring them you put an ad in the paper, if we use papers anymore, and you hire 20 people, you bring them into the conference room and say, welcome aboard. So glad to have you here. You're going to find out really quickly we do things differently here. None of you are going to be given job titles. None of you are going to be given job descriptions. I don't have goals or tasks for any of you, but here's what I want to do. I want to double the business in the next 12 months. Let's go have at it. Like, do we think we're going to be successful? Like, no, not at all. Yet that's what we're doing with our money, is that it's coming in. There is no job description, and it decides what it's going to do instead of us deciding what it's supposed to be doing for us. And so the key is to sit back and say, I know what every dollar is meant to do before it ever comes in the door. And so what we do, and I talk about this in my book also, it's called The Wealth Priority Ladder. And the whole thing is to say, every dollar when it comes in, where does that next dollar go? What is the job description? And the first stages of any plan, financial plan or journey, is to first make sure that you have the unshakable financial foundation. We know where we want to go. We know where we are. So now we look at the bottom few rungs of the wealth priority ladder, which is really about, when we talk about an unshakable foundation, there's three things that go into it. The first overarching thing that it encompasses everything having to do with money and wealth is your behaviors. What are your habits, behaviors, and your choices? There isn't, and this will rub people the wrong way at times, but no one listening, watching has money issues. No one has money problems. Okay. They'll tell me they do. They say, look at my bank account. Look at the debt I have. That's not an issue. That's not an issue. That's not a problem. That's a symptom. It's a symptom of your behaviors and your decisions and choices in the past. Meaning that if all we do is instill the right habits, choices, and decisions and behaviors, things will change. So the first element is to understand that it's a behavior problem, not a money problem. The second then is to give you an unshakable foundation is about liquidity and debt. First, we need the liquidity to hold ourselves when there might be a downturn, when life happens. That is, some people will say an emergency fund. I call it a peace of mind fund. But we need cash in a high yield savings account to take care of the problems when they come in, so we don't have to go deeper in debt. And then second, we need to have our debt under control. Doesn't mean it has to be completely eliminated. We need to have it under control. I just did a live this morning where I talked about there's a lot of people, statistics are showing that what they're doing is they're living this financial personality disorder, where split personality, where on one side they're saving $200 and the other side they're doing buy now, pay later for $200. And so you're trying to do both at the same time. It's literally like trying to bail water out of a boat while you're drilling holes in the bottom. It just can't work. So in order to have the unshakable foundation for you to grow wealth, we need to have debt under control, which means that we're not living beyond our means. We're not putting ourselves on credit cards every single month to live. And if we have credit card balances, then we have it on a debt payment plan with an accelerated payment plan, either using snowball or avalanche method to get out of debt while we're building the liquidity. And so if we have debt under control and liquidity in place, now we can start to look at investing, building wealth, because we have a foundation that won't shake us to the core if something happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And that's step number 3, correct? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. I know you have 2 more steps. Can you just tell me what they are? And then what we're going to do is we'll move.
Well, we have a couple more steps in the wealth priority ladder. So then it's a matter of investing. So then we'll be in investing, and where we invest and what we invest in is dependent on your situation. Do you have a 401k match, Roth, those kinds of things? There is a hierarchy on what we do there. Then from there, we would potentially look at property and paying down high interest mortgages. Then we would look at college funding. And this one's a hot take because I don't believe that you're responsible for paying for your kids' college. Okay. Now I say that, and I'm going to put the caveat on it. If it is going to put in jeopardy your financial future. Because we often as parents feel compelled to, I want to put my kid through college and we're going to pay for it. But in the process, we jeopardize our financial future. But your financial future is an absolute certainty. It is coming. So the only way to pay for your financial future, your retirement, whatever you want to call it, is by you having enough money to take care of it, by you leaning on Social Security, and Lord knows that's not it. So government handouts, or your kid's couch. You can't finance it, yet there's no other way to do it. But college is a different game. First, we don't even know if the kid's going to college. Second, we don't know what college they're going to. Third, we don't know if they're going to complete college. Fourth, we can get them involved in the process to get scholarships, grants, work programs, and other ways to pay for college. There's multiple ways to do it. So I say, take care of your financial certainty first before we start dealing with the uncertainty of college. And so there's this hierarchy that we walk through that helps people do that and build. And so when we look at the zoom out, the model is really about how do I earn, the earnings machine? How do I grow the money machine? Because we need both. And then how do I guard everything I've created? Those are the three core pillars of what we do.
Okay. Love it. Now, I know we could talk about this all day long, and I know that there's a lot that goes into it, but you do have something coming up where you're going to take people through this process. So the details, if you are sitting here thinking like, I have a question on this, or I wish they would go a little bit deeper into that, or like Mel's doing that. Like he has an event coming up where he is going to be walking you through every single one of these steps. So Mel, can you tell them a little bit more about like what that is? What do you have in store for them, and like what will they gain from it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm doing something called the Money Machine Experience Live. It's a 3-part training that I go deep. So I mean, we'll end up going into a lot of different things in the 3 sessions. Starts on September 18th. And the first session is kind of what we talked about. How do you craft your affluence journey, your path? What does that look like? You know, how do we build it? And I'll give you some tools to make that happen. What's the 4 stages of the affluence journey, the financial freedom journey, the gateways you have to go through? This is about knowing your journey. Then we'll come back and we'll do a second session on defining your lifestyle freedom number. What is that actual target? What is the calculation, and what are the 5 core principles that will drive your wealth? And we didn't talk about it here, but there's 5 incomes that will help you build the money machine to give you that freedom. And we talk about that in the second session. And then we come back with a third session to talk about what I call the 9 accelerators of wealth. It's the 9 elements that really build the money machine blueprint that allow you to know that you've got things dialed in and in place to make that happen. And so I'll go deep. There's a workbook that goes along with it. Most of my stuff is interactive. I want to see your faces. I want to have the conversations. I want to give you the tools. We're going to do some fun things along the journey. I'm going to do some giveaways and just have some fun. Money needs to be fun. It needs to be fun. We're talking about your life. We're talking about designing a life. I'll tell you the blessing I have right now is knowing that I get up each and every day, put my feet on the floor, and know that I'm making a choice. That the choice isn't being made for me by the expenses I have to pay, by the boss, by job, but it is a choice each and every day. that I get to make to know that I'm doing it. And I think that this is something that we all should have. I think we all have a right to have. I think that's what we're here to do, to be able to live a life by choice and not by demands. And the only way that happens is that we build that money machine that allows us to separate our ability to earn from the efforts to earn it.
And I think too, what most people don't realize, because I think a lot of people can get into victimhood or circumstances, or I didn't have blah, blah. Guys, there's people every single day that were born with absolutely nothing, that are millionaires, that are financially free. And it's not because they're smarter than you or because they just got lucky. It's because they made better choices. And I'm not saying maybe they made better choices. They just made choices that were more aligned with the vision that they want. And anyone and everyone can have that. And so I want all you guys to go to brandonlucero.com/Mel. So that's brandonlucero.com/Mel. That'll take you to the page where you guys can opt in, get registered for this. And again, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how little money you have, how much you're making, how little you're making. All that matters is understanding the vision, the steps that you need to take. And if small steps over time can make big differences. So head over there, brandonlucero.com/Mel, get registered. Again, I can sit here and talk about how to do big launches and how to make money and all of these really cool things, but none of it matters if your spending behaviors don't change. None of it matters if you're not putting the money into the right place. None of it really matters until you have a plan of building wealth and making sure that you, your kids, and even what I love about you, Mel, is you talk more about the legacy as well, like the legacy that you want to leave behind you. So head over there, brandonlucero.com/Mel. And Mel, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us about the myths, the first couple steps of putting things into place. And I hope everyone listening registers and you get to help them on a deep level. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me here, my friend. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. All right, guys, head over there, brandonlucero.com/Mel. And if you haven't done so yet, leave us a review on iTunes and send me some feedback on this episode. You guys love it. Did you not like it? I'm assuming you all loved it. So just maybe let me know how much you loved it. You can send me DMs on Instagram, but I appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you all next week for another episode. Take care, everyone. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.